I don't know where you want to go. It's not going to be good for you. Hello. Welcome to the Backpack Show and cat wrangling.
I wrangle no cats. That is not in our contract. Good morning.
Good morning, Backpack Show. I cannot believe this came together. And when I say that, it's only my fault. It's only my fault because I forgot all these details because Kerry usually handles all the important grown-up buttons and I don't. And so I almost didn't give Paul the link. I almost didn't give JB the first link. I very much then said, see you tomorrow. And both Paul and JB were probably like, what? Because the show's today. That's what
especially JB, because she was up already and it's very early.
Vancouver. Yep. So Paul's in, I think, Minnesota.
So Deb was the guest at Content Chat the other day and told exactly no one. And she shared all these great insights. So thankfully, Carol, who stops by here all the time, tweeted about it, and we were able to catch some of it. So
we were able to catch a little bit of Content Chat.
Tell somebody.
I almost participated, but then I decided to just listen. I know that's weird. So here's what today's show is about. Today's show, the other day, Kerry interviewed, I'm going to forget her name, our Indigenous business owner.
Right, Ariana.
And
Ariana Lauren of the Cowichan tribe.
I don't know what the Cowichan tribe, and what I don't remember is, I don't remember what made me think right away. I wonder if there's some really good hip hop artists who are native or indigenous. I wonder if I can find some cool hip hop music or rap that's in that genre. And I found a whole new world. And I found Tall Paul, Prayers in a Song, and he's out doing some education stuff. And JB, the First Lady, and she's doing it. So I wanted to talk about Indigenous culture. I wanted to talk about nations. I wanted to talk about education, talk about a whole new level of inclusivity. I'm pretty sure you haven't knowingly spent a whole lot of time with people in Indigenous
I'm
culture.
whiter than sour cream. I grew up on Cape Cod.
Right. So, and I've already told my really embarrassing story of being in a little group in Maine called Indian Guides, where I was part of the Micmac tribe, where we supposedly learned stuff, but boy, did we not. So today we get a chance to learn. So we've got a huge show. Stick around.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gorgone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show.
It was Tim Kitzrow's birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday, Tim Kitzrow, yesterday. If we had known that yesterday, we would have.
I know. It would be really cool.
Bags, but I didn't know. Josh Sway shared it.
I didn't know.
That's the beauty of this show. And it was so funny because JB just said this one thing backstage that made me think it. She goes, you want to show off your nation. And I always hate when podcasters have blah, blah nation. The only one I give any credit to on that is John Lee Dumas, when he calls his people Fire Nation on Entrepreneurs on Fire, just because he's done it since like episode 1. And I hate like blah, blah nation because it's usually.
Think about that though. You're like, this is episode 1 and I have a nation. That takes a certain amount of hubris.
Pretty ballsy.
Like calling anything the first annual of something.
But like, right from the minute I started talking to JB, the First Lady, she started educating me. So, Nuxalk Onondaga, not Onondaga. You watch Dances with Wolves a few times, you're going to get it all wrong. That's what I know. It's true. So I'm going to bring on JB, the First Lady, first because we need to talk. And I'm going to see if I dare to share a little bit of her video and see if I don't get copyright struck, because we're good at that here on the show.
Exceptionally good.
Every time we bring an artist on and share just a minute of their music, boop, we're off. Okay, I'm hitting the button. Hey, JB, how are you? Welcome, your First Ladiness.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's very early here on the West Coast.
You're up in the Van City. You're up where they make all the movies nowadays, now that Hollywood doesn't exist.
Yeah, Hollywood North. We have a lot of friends and family who are in the industry, so it's awesome to see. When you watch any movie, you could see, that's the street I walk down. So it's
Today it's New York.
Yeah. And there's lots of cool things that are being shot here. So Whoa.
Are you I'm trying to sort of get your origin story. So right after you were bitten by the radioactive spider, were you an educator first? Were you a musician first? How did this path go? Because you are a woman of presence. How did this go? Because like nobody tapped you on the shoulder and said, this is your destiny. I don't think.
Well, creator, like God, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as a young person, I was just like really involved with the community, and I moved so much as a young person, and every city that we went to, there's a place in like a lot of big city centers called the Native Center.
Wow.
And my mom would always say, like, you got to go there. That's where like all the resources are. That's where like, young people are. You can make friends. And it's just like so important that you be a part of the community. And that was really instilled in me at a younger age. And that's where I saw my first hip hop show, like live.
Wow.
And it was different artists like Kinney Star, Oz 12, Manic Wonderful, and Skeena Reese. And these young people were proud of who they were. They were talking about Native pride, talking about decolonization, colonization. And it was a place of identity and belonging because, like I said, I moved to so many different cities across Canada, like all across Canada, like in Saskatchewan, in Ontario, and it was just so awesome to see someone who looked like you on stage and rocking the crowd and being proud of who they are because like I said, I moved so much, I didn't have that belonging, and to have that was so powerful. So I was just like, wow, I want to do that for other young people to be proud of who they are and where they come from. So it was such a powerful time. And now I'm just like, I got to keep going. It just
it's gonna keep moving. So you rattled off a whole bunch of bands, and I consider myself a pretty decent hip hop head from about the 80s. And one of the things I realized, I don't know a single name you said. And then you mentioned that they might all be native hip hop, and so they might all be indigenous people. So
you have some catching up to do.
I know none of this. Like I found you, and I found Tall Paul, and I found a few other people just kind of out there on the web, and it's pretty diffuse, let's say, if you don't know where to look. Second, you've got two barriers, right? So indigenous people are not necessarily the most known for their hip hop, though they should be. And the Canada-U.S. border, because of course we have to decide you're worthy enough to be down here, JB, which of course you are. So do you want to
consider who's down here already? I mean,
who are the legends, and then how much do you have to pick up from watching, American hip hop, however you want to call that? How did you pull you out of that sauce, basically?
Yeah, so like I said, like there's some like amazing artists. Like first off, like really has inspired me the most is the matriarch of like indigenous music, which is Buffy St. Marie, and just seeing like her as a folk artist, and like if like folk music were to be created today, it would be hip hop, if that makes sense. And just really having that major representation on that level, and then seeing other women in hip hop, so and in indigenous hip hop here in Canada, there's artists like Kinney Star, I said, and Equal is so incredible. She really inspired me as well. And it was just like I said, how important representation, seeing someone that looks like you, seeing someone who is speaking to the injustices, but also celebrating resilience and strength at the same time, was just like so important to me, not only as a young person, but like even now, even more. So seeing that evolve and seeing how like us as Indigenous young people, seeing that reflection of our own culture reflected in, to this new culture, which is Black and, Latin culture, and how they were speaking to the oppression, speaking out, telling the real stories of where like what is happening in their neighborhoods. And I think that's why Indigenous people, Native American people really identify with hip hop because, to me, I see like the four elements, five, there's a question of five elements of hip hop and how, it's dance, it's singing, it's art, it's storytelling. And us as Indigenous people of this land, of Turtle Island, we call it, we have that inherently inside of us already. So hip hop is a place where it's coming out in a contemporary way, if that makes sense.
It all makes sense.
Yeah, it's just like so powerful. And that's really was a gateway to get me into my own culture. So I was really into, first off, was really into graffiti. And then I was into rapping and storytelling. So I was like, maybe I should also look at my own culture. So now I've been really involved with my own, with like our singing, songs, dances, and ceremonies. And it's been so incredible.
So I want to ask a million things, but before I do, I want to play just like a 30 seconds or so of Still Here. Is that an okay one to play? Can I play Still Here? All right, because
Still Here.
we have whatever one you start with is your favorite. Like you can't help that. Like I was before I was into hip hop, I was into heavy metal, and we found a Megadeth cassette tape back when they had those in a parking lot somewhere, and I could vividly remember the first song I heard by Megadeth, even this many years later, even though they have
Someone's mom must have thrown it out the window.
Yeah, you can't listen to this crap. So here's a little bite of Still Here.
Truth and reconciliation fading, divided and shading, but we still here, still here. Missing brother, missing mother, missing goddess. Say it again, no clean water, but we still here, The message is clear, they wanted us to disappear, but we still here. The message is clear, they wanted us to disappear, but we still here, The father in sight, women warrior fight. I wanna break the cycle in the circle, non-verbal, nocturnal, no dress rehearsal. Ahead by a century, awaken the spirit, be fearless and clear it.
It's so fun to watch, and it's also so fun to imagine when we're trying to make art that like we're pulling from other places and stuff like that. It must have been a lot of fun for you to throw the video together after having all the work on that song.
Yeah, like I actually co-directed this piece, and just really getting into filmmaking is so important for us as Indigenous people because, even with Indigenous hip hop, Native stories haven't been told as Indigenous people, and our voices have been like shut because of history and because of what is still being, taken from Indigenous people today, which is like the land for extraction, for money, and like unfortunately, a lot of our people are being killed and murdered. So that's why our art is so important, and to really dig deeper into storytelling and being the keepers of our stories, because we're so like cultural appropriation for our people is so heavy, and we constantly have to like push up against that. But for us to make our own art is just is a place where we can be in control and bring awareness in a way that not a lot of people can do that, like being a musician and being able to touch people's hearts and their minds to really bring these really heavy subjects to light. But also it's like kind of like sneaking in the back door of people's minds to be like, oh, what am I really like watching here? So I'm kind of like a trickster, like coming in the back door to
That's where youth educator.
Yeah. So.
Well, I just said to Kerry, hey, Kerry, ask a question. I'm sorry. I keep taking all of JB's time, but I have another. I'm sorry. So when I hear Still Here, there's two things I think of. I think a little bit of Missy Elliott. It might just sort of be the squeaky, get your freak on kind of sound in that one. Plus Missy Misdemeanors, like, you know, one of the first massive legends of females in hip hop. But as I felt so bad because as you're saying this thing, I'm over here still kind of dancing to it. And I was like, oh, I mean, I should probably also really absorb this really deep message. Is it okay? Like, is it like, can I have the cheeseburger first and then learn how we made it? Or like, how do you want me to experience that music?
Yeah, I want you to like be able to be like, oh wow, like experience, you know, like I feel like Missy is like very powerful in her words, like in her presence, and yeah, like dance to it, like yo, like. But it's like also kind of funny when I do live shows. I'm like, okay, everybody, you know, like when I say still here, don't be like white people, like don't say that you're still here. Point to the people of color. And everyone just loves that. I'm really like, it's like native humor to like really have like a heavy subject and then you like say something funny and inappropriate kind of, you know. So,
Nice.
yeah, so it's yeah, I want you to dance to it. There's really shout outs to my brothers. They're called the Snotty Nose Res Kids, and they're very, very, very popular. And actually, like a part of their origin story is like they saw me at a show rocking out and having fun, and they said they wanted to do that as well. So it's just like now these young people, the Snotty Nose Res Kids, they're like a duo, and you know they've been nominated for Junos, they've been nominated for Polaris Prize, and getting recognition on the highest levels, especially here in Canada. And like we've been kind of like here in the artists here in Canada, we've been just kind of like mostly focusing on being and interacting on that level here in Canada. We haven't really crossed over to America yet. But I was able to meet Tall Paul, which is your other guest, and
Right.
That's been so cool. Like we met at an Indigenous hip hop conference, which was like so epic, and I'll never forget that. So yeah, I'm just like so happy to be able to connect with people on that level. And I talk about even like missing and murdered Indigenous women and residential schools in my music, and just kind of bringing it to like a family aspect. I talk about I'm looking for my sister. Where did she go? Where did she go? And like really heavy as well. And then residential school. A lot of our families here were affected by that and still are. And I'm like, imagine like a whole community with no children. So it's called
So residential school.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people here might not even know what that is.
Yeah, so residential school was a policy by the Canadian government to take children from their communities and to give them education. And it seemed good at the beginning, but actually it was very abusive. A lot of abuse happened there, like sexual abuse, physical. If you were speaking your native language, you would be beaten. Stuff like that, just like very horrendous stories. And actually the Canadian government has apologized for that. And there was, yeah, it's just like very bad. And our people are still healing from that. And not only residential school being taken is like considered being taken from your community and is considered genocide. So that type of genocide has been happening for a long time. And even still today, our young people are being put into foster care system, and over half of the young people in care are Indigenous, and there's more young people in care in the foster care system than there was in residential school. And that's the same cause and effect that is being happening. So, yeah.
That reminds me of in Australia, they have Sorry Day in an effort to apologize for the fact that they did the same to Aboriginal children.
One day.
Yeah, that's it. The rest of the time, they're not sorry, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, we have that similar thing. It's called Orange Shirt Day. So we have a day where we wear orange shirt because a residential school survivor, they wore an orange shirt and they weren't allowed to wear that. So now, like, a lot of this campaign has been going across Canada, and a lot of the young people are learning about the true history, and that's very successful and powerful as well, to see that being brought into the light, and to the young people really like seeing it, like all like elementary schools and high schools and everything. So
it's big.
Papa Brogan is here for it. He says your lyrics are spot on, and the U.S. government's broken every Indigenous treaty it ever made. And he even shared links. So if you're in the comments, go check them out.
That's my dad. JB, this could be the year too. I have one more thing, and then we're gonna do ads that I forgot to do at the beginning. But this is also FX signed Reservation Dogs, and I would probably have made a face about this if I didn't see Taika Waititi's name attached to it.
Yeah.
So I have some hope. Are you feeling optimistic about this possibility?
Yes, definitely. Sterling Harjo is very well known in, we call it Indian country. And again, like just having Indigenous, like it's very important to have Indigenous representation be telling our stories, so that there's no like cultural appropriation. There's no,
they're not yucking it up on your behalf or anything.
And Sterling is a well-known filmmaker as well. And then, the legend, he will be there. And just, like I said, our stories haven't been told yet. And we have a really big perspective that hasn't been really like touched upon. So
I feel like your people could talk to their people and maybe talk about what the soundtrack scenario is like, JB.
Yes,
just really. A thought for you.
Yeah, we have a really awesome show here in Canada called Trickster, and it's very young, it's very fresh, and my music was on it. Also, the Snotty Nose Reds Kids were on it as well. And so it's been really cool to, in pandemic times, I'm still like, the music is still getting out there, and I'm doing lots of virtual shows and stuff. So check it out. It's on CBC Gem, and it's called Trickster. So it's like, a lot of amazing actors.
So our 2 Canadian viewers are absolutely in on that. So the rest of us, we're going to have to try to see if we can get it somewhere else. JD, the First Lady, stick around. We're going to ask you a few more questions at the end. Small little panel with Tall Paul. Stick around, but thank you so much for being part of it. Woo! Boop. All right. Don't anyone go anywhere, because Tall Paul has so much more to add to this shenanigans. I forgot to do sponsors at the beginning. Like I said, I'm going to do for the whole rest of the year, because I'm just a total bag of poop today. But here you go. If you want to make a show and interview Snotty Res Kids, which you can make it like this: cbrogan.me/StreamYard. Make your own show.
You have to get to them before I do.
That's right. Inexpensive, very easy to use, makes everything look professional. The only thing that's not professional is me. Make a show. We're going to be changing this graphic out soon, because PubSite has a new logo. So this is the last time you will see that graphic because I have to get my lazy butt and make a new one. PubSite is a site for authors. You want to make a website? Do it there. Super easy. What's it going to take, an hour or two, Kerry?
Probably less, but there haven't been any guests that we've had on that I thought didn't have a book in them somewhere. So if you're going to write a book and you need a website to promote it, which you do, PubSite is super easy. You put together your own website. It's fully customizable and it already has in it all the things you need to promote yourself as an author, promote your appearances and things like that. So go and get it. If you haven't written the book yet, get this anyway. It's really easy. Just get the website first. There's a 14-day free trial. And after that, it's just $19.99 a month. So there's no excuse. Go get a website.
Cannot believe it.
It's really hard to book authors for the show if I can't find them. If I can't find like a way to contact them, and website is really helpful.
And it's amazing how many people don't have their own setup website just so that it can be easy just for us to find and get to know you a little bit more.
Not just us. I'm being selfish, but I mean, you want other people to be able to find you too. Yeah.
Pub-site.com. Get some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go get some.
Tall Paul.
We'll have to ask about concert dates. See, so go to JB's website and you can see what's going on there. What she has.
JBthefirst-lady.ca.
See how people need.
Or if you are a Spotify user, I think it also tells you upcoming dates. So I'm going to grab you some Tall Paul. Tall Paul was such a gentleman all the way through the process. And, I tried to thwart him at every turn.
We shut up.
See you tomorrow, Paul. He's like, wait. So I'm just glad he,
you don't have to like beat yourself with a pain stick later or something if you feel bad about it. It's fine. He's here.
Okay. So let's grab us some Tall Pauls.
All right.
Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Hey. Hello.
How goes school over there? Is it still in session?
Oh yeah, they just started back up yesterday. So yeah, the boys aren't too excited about that, but yeah, they're getting back in class.
Oh man.
I grabbed you the same way I did JB. I just said I got to find some people who make good music that I want to hear, and I landed right on you. You're built out in the beautiful lands of Minnesota and Minneapolis, the greater Minneapolis area.
Yeah. South Minneapolis is where I was born and raised.
Gotcha. Ojibwa, right?
Yeah. Ojibwa. Yeah.
Okay. The song I found was Prayers in a Song, and I just want to play just a tiny bit of it because not only do you rap about your culture, but you rap in is it Ojibwa? Do you call the language Ojibwa as well? Okay.
Yeah.
So let me just put a little flavor out there for some people. I hope I don't get copy struck.
Me gotta treat them like family. Get your money, we do coward shit. Je must go with Yan. Me Dutch, but me, it is Yan. Me Shishanam, I get you white when Gnu Shishanam, Bizen Dow with Shanam. Me one Janaka of Yan. Me Mishomis, we do coward Shanam. Jit, I budget too young, and Nishanam, baby, is your when me Jit big, it came to my KI, Nishanam, baby, my dizzy win.
So there we are. We're doing two things at once in there. That must be 30 times harder to make it all make sense. Not that you speak the language, but to fit it into the music both ways like that.
Yeah. So when I made that song, my desire for making that song was just, it kind of leads back into that whole boarding school thing and the historical trauma. Nobody in my family knew the language or really practiced the culture. So when I grew up as a kid, I kind of had this internal gap within me that needed to be filled around my identity as an indigenous person. So when I got to college and I seen that they offered the language as a class, I took that class for 2 years and had the idea to do my senior project at the University of Minnesota as a hip hop song incorporating the language. Because something that my instructor, Pebama Bernays, would always tell me was whatever you do for the language will do for you. And I knew that I didn't have the dedication and the time and so on and so forth to keep studying the language to the level that you need to in order to become fluent and teach it and so on. So I thought that this would be my greatest contribution to the language revitalization process to make this song. And, pretty amazingly, I've had teachers all around the world, not only teachers either, but just as an example, instructors from colleges to elementary schools telling me, hey, we've played this song as part of our course curriculum. And, people have reached out to me and said, this song inspired me to try to rap in my language and so on and so forth. So, yeah, that's why I made that song.
You've gone to speak at schools, a number of schools, and I think what I really took from it was how you've helped other kids from all backgrounds to connect to their heritage. Not just Indigenous people, but other kids who'd forgotten kind of where their family came from. Because in a lot of cultures, immigrants try in the first generation born here to wipe out the language and speak just English to assimilate. So I think you're helping people really everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. And that's definitely the goal, because I definitely identify as, Native or, whatever you might want to call it, Native American, Indigenous, Ojibwa. That is definitely a strong and huge part of my identity, but I also want to inspire and motivate anybody who can relate to my story.
Right, because it's a lot to carry an entire nation around and be like, I am the representation of Ojibwa, but like you just want to also just be Paul and say this is how I was raised, or this is who my people were in my neighborhood, and that sort of a thing as well, right? So it must be a mix of your story telling efforts. Do you find that it is burdensome in some ways, or do you want to carry that with you? Like, how do you want to tell your story?
I think it's just kind of how you said. I like to be seen as, Paul, an individual, a human being who is definitely Indigenous and proud of that, but also not, to put me in that box and just that category. Like I'm proud to be a Native hip hop artist, but at the same time, I would like to be recognized as just a hip hop artist who happens to be Native, if that makes sense. Because speaking from my own stories, there's been times where people look at you like, oh, Native rapper, like that they'll expect that you won't be able to rap, and then you get on stage and they see you rap and they're like, oh, dang, you got bars, and they'll act surprised, and I'm like, well, why are you surprised? Just because I'm Native, like. So yeah, definitely, like, I'm proud of my heritage and my culture, and I'm always proud to be Native, but at the same time, I just want to be seen as a human being as well, and not just this representative of a tribe or whatever.
Well, the work you do in education is so helpful for that, because whether people realize it or not, they have biases based on these really shoddy media representations we've had of Native culture. And they don't even think about it, I don't think, most people, until they actually meet someone Indigenous, which for a lot of people almost never happens. So that has to be a lot for you too. When you meet people and go to these schools, hundreds of people who've maybe never actually had a conversation with a Native person about their culture.
Yeah, that's a tough reality. We make up such a small portion of this country, even though, before pre-contact, we numbered 100 million plus, Indigenous people all across this continent, Turtle Island, and now we're like 1 to 2% of the U.S. population. So it's definitely understandable why a lot of people don't know about us, and I try not to hold it against a lot of people, because what can you do if you're not educated? I know for myself, I can't say that I'm aware of all cultures and people in the world, so I understand it, but at the same time, I also try to take it upon myself to be an educator when I'm able to have that teaching opportunity with somebody who may have never met a Native person.
Which is so valuable. So thank you on behalf of me and my other 35 kids I graduated with on Cape Cod who'd never seen anybody that wasn't from Cape Cod.
Yeah, I'll retell the smallest bit of his story. I was born and raised in Maine. My parents, really were interested in Native culture, and they, for what we could get our hands on in books and stuff. You got to remember, it just wasn't, even back in the 70s, it wasn't something there were a lot of good books about. People weren't able to tell their story. People weren't being invited to tell the story. They had this thing called Indian guides, and what they did was a whole bunch of us white idiots who would sit around and try to recreate stuff in this group. And I was part of the Micmac tribe, and I knew nothing about anything except Micmac. And it took me decades to like read an actual book by an actual person in that nation and who actually had like real life experience. And of course, in my head, I thought still it was like 1700s, 1800s, because that's the era that people covered. But you're from now, and you're trying to say there's a whole reality now, has nothing to do with any cowboys or nothing. It's gotta be daunting and a little head shaking. Like you said, when they didn't know you had bars, you must have just been like, oh, okay, here we go again. Do you ever just want to shake that and be like, I'll just be a school teacher. It's good.
Never mind.
Nah, that was never a motivation for me, like, giving up or anything. Definitely not. I have recently pivoted into some other endeavors, just kind of induced by the pandemic and the cancellation of so many events. It's crazy. 2020 was actually looking to be like probably my best year as an artist as far as my career goes, and then everything was just wiped out. So kind of had to pivot, and I definitely had some virtual gigs, like quite a few this year, and I'm grateful for that. But just the shift from being in the public and doing show flyers and being on stage and to everything being in private virtual events, it kind of still takes you out of the public eye in a big way. Yeah. So now even future bookings are potentially being impacted. So kind of had to pivot and start some other business endeavors to support my family as well. But it's still definitely something I'll always do and love is my hip hop. But yeah, it taught me definitely that I'll have to be versatile.
If there's a way people watching can support you, just let us know. Like a place they can
do we
go.
got merch or something? Like what can people?
Oh yeah. So these aren't actually this sweater. I mean this hoodie. This ain't even a hoodie. This is a crew neck sweater. I'm gonna share it on the screen here.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, hang on. Let me make it bigger. Hang on. Who doesn't want a tall Paul shirt? Period.
I want one. It'll be ironic though, because I'm 5'6". Like I'm average.
It's kind of crooked, but
it's all good.
Yeah, I love it.
So it's a traditional Ojibwa floral artwork in there, and that's a crew neck. And that's actually like 5 years old. So, I mean, I'm printing some new hoodies with that same logo. And, as you can see, it never faded. It's high quality. and that'll be on tallpaulshop.com. It's not published yet, but if you go look, you can sign up for the email newsletter. Just TALLPAUL shop.com. And that'll be up soon.
Sign up for that newsletter. And boy, are you smart to have a newsletter, because somebody...
Yeah,
it's all about email newsletters, and he was right.
Push that merch, baby.
Yeah.
Are you teaching your kids the language?
Yeah. So I definitely, man, I have memories of my son. He's big now, like he's about to be 13 years old. But when he was just a little guy, we'd be out on the street going to school, walk him to school, and he'd be like, "Oh, waboos," he'll see a rabbit, and waboos is the word for a rabbit. Or he'll see a squirrel. He said, "Ajitamo," So nice. I got memories of him doing that, and it's not as often now, but definitely like they know like the important words in the language that most of our people know, such as thank you and hi, hello, bonjour, anin, miigwech. Definitely try to keep them educated of those basic terms at the very least.
Ojibwa was a waterborne nation as well, right? I mean, they were all in around Lake Huron and some of that area. Do I have my neighborhood right? Is that
yeah
culturally?
Yep, all the Great Lakes region.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and in through Canada too. So because JB, representing up there in the West right now, but there's a lot of different places where the whole North American continent, the Big Turtle, it's there. It's interesting. I'm wondering if. Is there a value for people understanding tribalism or the good parts of tribalism now? Not to appropriate, but it is important that they understand what that meant or what it meant to like care for the people and sort of, make the village do the work kind of a thing.
Oh, yeah. Definitely, and just that value of, it takes a tribe to raise a child kind of mentality, we live in a world where it's so much do for yourself, take care of your own, and so on and so forth. I think there's definitely value in taking care of each other. Personally for myself, I know that I find my most peace and contentment when I am being of service to others. So when I can do something helpful to impact the lives of others, it just seems to, in strange ways, find itself coming back to me. Those same blessings return to me when I give them to others. So that's something that I try to emphasize, is making sure that I find ways to impact lives positively other than just my own or the people that I care about who are close to me.
I'm going to grab her first ladiness herself, JB, the first lady back here. I want to know for both of you, Paul pointed out the fact that it's just so hard to do anything right now musically. Like the gigs just aren't there right now. And everybody's, when you're talking about your other pursuits, I mean, we're all kind of in our little port cities right now trying to wait for the storm to go by, but it's the longest storm ever. What do you do with your creative selves, especially when you're not being allowed to express it as much in the way that you most want to? Where's that energy go? I guess I'll start with you, JB.
Yeah, just using my energy into, I also do like beadwork. So I've been doing lots of beadwork, and I just recently had a baby. So yeah, so I'm just been in baby mode really. So, and then doing beading, and then I've actually also did like a talk show like this as well.
Nice.
But with other Indigenous mothers. So we're called the Indigenous Motherhood Views show, and we would do Facebook Live, and we would just talk about the current events that were happening. So that was a good outlet. So shifting into other genres of art or of speaking. So
nice. Yeah. That's fun. Paul, what about you? Where does your right brain have to go to get fed right now?
So right now I've noticed that even though I'm not like graphic designer gifted, like I'm not good with drawing and painting and things like that, I've started developing a lot of design concepts, because I think I want to turn this, this Tall Paul sweater or this tallpaulshop.com into a merch business of its own, and not only limited to, being tied to my persona as a hip hop artist. So I've been developing a lot of design concepts in my mind that I want to definitely get published and, put out new merch. And then other things, something else that came to my mind is kind of funny. So during this pandemic, I've kind of picked up and learned about investing, investing in the stock market and things like that. And
sure,
I was like, well, this is something that is not taught in public schools, or at least not where I'm from, and
not
anywhere. It was like, it's not taught to. So basically, in order for you to know about it, you just got to discover it yourself, or, you have to come from a family who was versed in it. So I'm like, well, financial literacy in general is not something that's really taught in the schools where I'm from. So I'm like, I can learn this and find creative ways to teach my community about the importance of being smart with our finances, because it's just terrible. Like you see the trends where people will get their refund checks or their stimulus checks and just go blow it on something that is not an asset and that will not, help their future. And I don't blame them. It's like I did the same thing for many years. But one example I posted on one of my pages was a stock market and an Indian taco, and like with the Indian taco, the most important ingredient is the fried bread. So can't have an Indian taco without the fried bread. And I equate that to like index funds for myself, like ETFs and index funds, because they're blanket funds that hold many companies, and therefore they are safe and essential. So just for example, like VOO is an ETF that mirrors the S&P 500 market. So, and I'm not a financial advisor, so nobody go and make any kind of financial decisions based on what I'm talking about right now. But just an example of how I've got creative with myself outside of hip hop. A couple of them is just like merchandise and thinking of ways I can educate my community on financial literacy.
No, that's big.
I had one teacher I didn't like, and the only way to get him onto a tangent was to ask about the stock market. So I would do it, and like 25 minutes later, class would be over. I was like, phew. That's how I learned about the stock market.
We had Sir Mix-a-Lot on, and one of the things Sir Mix-a-Lot talked about, he kind of semi-famously made all the money in the world for like My Posse's on Broadway and all that. He lost it all real quick, the way any musician does when they get that bag. Right. And he went back and learned a bit about finances, and it was really important to him. And now what he does, he teaches young artists how they need to have more intellectual property. They need to have more, they have to have more control on where they're putting their cash early, because that's where it all runs. So it's interesting you're saying that. Plus, in a lot of cultures, money is how people get held down, but money is how people also buy their way up and out. So you don't get a whole lot of respect until suddenly you've got the bag, and then you could do some stuff.
Nazim says, you have a voice that would convince me to buy stock.
I feel like Paul could say anything and we'd all say, okay.
Like, it sounds good.
All right.
It's making a lot of sense.
Listen, one more vote for, doing a little bit of more art merch and stuff like that. Ojibwa have some amazing art. That was just me Googling it. Look at all that color. I mean, that looks like tagging. That looks like what JB used to make, out on that street. So we're at the end of the show. We have two things we got to do. One is a person of the day, where we pick somebody who's person of the day. I can only see one because he was quite energized. Over all the way in Milan, Italy, is who you're impressing today.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
It's our man Nazim. So
you just signed up for Tall Paul's newsletter,
right?
Nice.
So get him on that list, baby. So last question of the day is what goes in your backpack. Now the backpack question basically is that everything's kind of crazy. Everything's shifting all the time. We don't know what's next, and we can't really take everything with us. So we only have a backpack. We can put something either physical or metaphorical in it. So Kerry, a couple good metaphorical ones from the old days.
I love fearlessness, vulnerability, pride. Like Horacio Garcia Rojas said pride, because he's an actor in Mexico City and he wants to be known around the world, but he's from Mexico City, and for him that's important. So I love that one too. You have some physical ones you love.
I like an avocado. Avocado is from our Clown Without Borders friend, who I'm totally forgetting. Trujillo. What's her first name?
Saida
Trujillo. And she said an avocado. And then the other physical, I like your one that you bring up a lot, Whiskey Nate. He had a good one. What's his again?
A book you hate, because if it's the only book you have, eventually you're going to read it and learn something from it.
Can you imagine that? Put a book you hate in your backpack.
They really can't.
I hate that.
You know what, though? If you want new ideas, you're not going to get them the same old places you already like and visit. So it makes sense.
So because ladies first, JB, the first lady, what goes in the backpack?
Definitely like consistency of just being consistent and being persistent, and definitely
take it.
I would love to have like a record player. I just got a record player and just have like all my favorite classic albums
on some vinyl.
Yeah, because I love how it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's different from digital, and yeah.
Tell me just for entertainment. Tell me a couple. Give me three. Give me three new vinyls that you need to pick up that you'd put in that. Can't wait to hear them pile.
I definitely want Fleetwood Mac.
That was my first thought you'd say.
Yeah, and Lauryn Hill, Miss Education, and what else? What else is a classic album?
It doesn't have to be classic to everybody. It just could be like, I love this one when I was a kid. We used to dance to it.
Yeah. Okay. ABBA. Dancing Queen. Yeah.
I love you. I would never have picked Fleetwood Mac or ABBA because, again, I'm thinking, indigenous people type music and hip hop people. So I'm like, she's gonna go Missy, Queen Latifah. She's, Mary J. Blige. Like I'm naming all the greats.
You don't know her. Stop pretending.
I know nothing. I'm throwing it all away.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
I also love rock music, like classic rock.
Nice.
I like the chicken fried rock, which I have no reason to like, but I do.
Oh,
like Sweet Home Alabama and stuff.
All right, forget it. Tall Paul, what goes in the backpack?
For me, I would say gratitude and service. And then I would say also definitely some books, my iPhone probably, so I can it's a versatile tool. I can write my rhymes in it and take my notes, handle emails and things like that. And some water. Water is life. Definitely have to bring some water.
You know, Chris, you're getting soft. You used to limit people to one.
I
There's
know.
like 15 things
Full
in that
backpack.
backpack.
I watch a YouTube channel called Reactistan, and it's a very, very small village in Pakistan where the people there have like experienced almost nothing of Western culture per se, but and they're in on it. Like they're not making fun of the people. They're saying, you know, here's McDonald's food. What do you think of McDonald's food? And they all like share their opinion on like, you know, Big Macs and things like that. And I'm addicted to Reactistan mostly because there's this one really old guy who hates everything. So I love him.
You're that old guy. I hate to be the one to tell you.
Well, I am the old guy, but
Yeah.
he because what he says though, like you would hear things you might have heard elders say, and in what he says, he's like, I don't get why people think this is food. This isn't food. This is why people get sick. This is why kids look the way they do now, and all these things, right? So the reason I said this because you said water, they did a whole episode on bottled water, and first off, they were just like, this is like what those kids sell in the city. Those little kids on the street corner running by trying to get you to buy the water. I've never even seen a bottle of water myself, you know, and I thought that's in what planet, Pakistan, do you not even see bottled water? And they were talking about like how this water was sweet or this one was salty or this one was very bitter and I don't like it. Fizzy water they hated, even though they've had Coke, like they know what soda tastes like. But it's funny when you said that because water is life, and 1 million bottles a minute pass hand because people don't even know you can actually just drink it or filter it or whatever. So anyway, that was apropos.
Write a book someone will hate. That's some 2021 advice for you. While you're on lockdown, if you got a little time, you got a book in you, write one. And if somebody hates it, Nate will put it in his backpack and take it out.
I hate my book, so maybe I'll just give it to Nate. All right. So one last thing about record albums, and this is on our way out, is that my grandmother, no lie, loved a mix of music. She loved like Barry Manilow. She loved ABBA. She loved the Village People for reasons none of us knew. And one of her favorite bands was Judas Priest, no lie. And her favorite song